to open this particular technical session with a teaser for the mini conference so that everybody gets into the mode before we then go into our conversations for today. So please enjoy.
The Nigerian Association of Petroleum Explorationists, NAPE, and Nigerian Mining and Geosciences Society, NMGS, present the 10th NAPE NMGS Mini Conference, OCA 2021, Wednesday 22nd to Sunday 26th September 2021 at Anambra University, OCA, Anambra State, 9 a.m. each day. Theme: Nigeria's Geoscience Education, Issues and Challenges on Geoscience Graduate Employability. Highlight: field trip, technical presentations, varsity quiz and competitions, free short courses, networking and sports competition. Sponsors: Mrs. Patricia Chobu, FNAPE, President NAPE, and Alabo CD Charles, FNMGS, President NMGS. Host: Professor Kechukwe Simone, Vice Chancellor, UNIZIC. Inquiries: call Dr. Emmanuel Madawea, FIMC, Chairman, NAPE UAP on 081-331-67049. Signed, Professor Bernard Odo, Chairman, Local Organizing Committee.
All right.
The Nigerian
Thank you. So I'm just going to flip over to our next event now, which is what we are here today. Today is our monthly technical meeting, and we have a business/technical presentation, which will be focused on hidden treasures of West Central African rift basins of Nigeria and Niger Cretaceous Petroleum systems. This is being done as a memorial for Professor Peters, one of his work that was published in 1978 and 1982. If memory serves me right, I know Professor Peters and a lot of others were very involved in understanding the petroleum systems, how they all sync together for the Cretaceous sediments that we have in Nigeria, which we all are a part of as geoscientists and oil explorationists. To take us today would be the principal geologist from Savannah Energy, Mr. Raul Bastante. He will be making the presentation. And we have Mr. Abiodun Adesanya, who needs no introduction, our FNAPE CEO of DG Connect, who will be the chairman of that technical presentation. Our agenda will be run in this way. We would have a safety briefing. It's becoming important for us to begin to include safety briefing in our conversations, as we have a lot of the pandemic and a lot of other important safety discussions that we should be sharing as a not-for-profit organization, but more importantly, because of the industry that we find ourselves. The president-elect is here. He will be chairing these events. And he will be doing all of the introductions to welcome everyone in. I'm sad to say that we also lost another professor in the last week, so we'll be having a 1-minute silence for him before we go into the technical presentation. So I will hand over now to Femi to do the safety briefing to open the event before we then commence. Femi, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the privilege. So for the safety moment, we'll talk briefly on how to manage stress and anxiety as we go through this COVID-19 pandemic. So what we're talking about is, it's been overflowed. People have said it, we've read it on radio, read it on TV. But as professionals, it's good we remind ourselves about the implications, about the fact that the COVID is still with us. And with the new variant, that's the Mu variant, the Lambda variant, and that variants are coming, numbers are rising. And even looking at someone that recently caught COVID and had my parents and wife too having COVID and being in intensive care, I think it's key we remind ourselves that we'll have to still stick with the measures, because we hear a lot of sudden deaths happening now, and a lot of people, their immune system is down, and exposing yourself to this virus gets you deeper. And if your immune is not okay for you to recover back, you're gone. So we see from December 2019, when the coronavirus was first identified in China, it has gone global. It's affected every country. People are dying. A friend was saying about a place in the US where they're not taking vaccine and number is increasing. Social distancing has become the norm now, and we now do a lot of remote working. We're now used to Zooming. Normally we probably meet at an event center in VI Lekki to have this section, but now we're now adopting working online and having meetings online. So distancing, social distancing has been part of our life now, and this has been very challenging to many of us, and affected our lives and work. We're used to shooting people, hugging people, shaking people, but now probably a lot of things remotely. So it has affected our life and led to a lot of stress and anxiety. So what are the ways that we can work on this? One, accept the new norm of social distancing. Don't say, oh, I'm tired of this. I want to just come close. There's no COVID again. Still stick with that rule, social distance, at least 6 feet from the next person. Also, create structure to your day. Try and have your calendar. This is the time I want to sleep. This time I want to wake. This time I'm spending watching this program. This time I'm spending on this meeting. Have a calendar. With that, this time I'm exercising. Your body knows the time. Because if it's not well planned, it can affect the internal clock of your body, and that can stress you out. And the implication, you might feel, oh, it's something little and I can cope with it. But if it builds up, it affects your immunity and exposes you and can lead to more stress and get you very anxious. Also, focus on positive control. What are the things you can control? We can't control everything. We can't manage everything. We can't be in charge of everything. Take a biro, pen down all the things you can control. You can make it electronic or using manual, or just using your biro, like I said. But ensure that you have a list of things you can control and work on the things you can control. The ones you can't control, look for ways that you can manage it gradually that does not affect your mood, does not lead to stress or get you anxious. Also, remember it's isolation. That is social distancing, isolating ourselves, not elimination. So basically, what you have to do is you should ensure, what you should do is to ensure that you still speak to families, to friends, call them online, speak to them via Zoom, still try and keep that relationship, that mutual time, spend it with them. That time when you joke with friends, you laugh, it gives you all those endorphins, make you happy and help you to suppress whatever stress might be handling. Also, try and change your response to stress. When you respond to stress, it's physical. And if it's not well managed, can lead to you having high BP and also lead to chronic illnesses like diabetes and other chronic illnesses. So we don't want to get to that stage now. We want to be healthy, we want to be active. So having to ensure that you look for activities that you can do that can help you relieve your stress at this time, that can take away the anxiety, is very vital. And lastly, try and boost your immunity. Eat good fruits. Eat good food. Eat a balanced diet. Get fruits. Some people would say probably try ginger, garlic, and other things for now. Just get some that boost your immunity. And also, if you can, get vaccinated. Because worst scenario, if you get COVID, it will help you to at least manage the weakness that comes with it. But as a professional said, as Jesper said, it won't lead to loss of your life. Thank you very much. And I should say, for your safety, continue to wear a mask. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the session and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Femi. Femi is one of our NAPE young professional members. So thank you for doing this for us. So I'm going to call right now. I mentioned that we had lost another of our professor in the course of last week, Professor Sunday Ojo. He was the first Noella recipient in the UAPC community and is also a NAPE fellow. And I'm going to call Noye, our Assistant General Secretary, if she's on the call, to take us through a 1-minute silence for him before we then open up to the President-elect to welcome all of us. Noye, are you here, please? Promise, can you help me promote her into host so that we do this very quickly, please? Promise, can you confirm if you can see Noe, just so we know that she's on the call and we either call someone else or we wait for her?
Yes, she has been promoted to a panelist.
Okay, great. All right. So AGS, please do us the honors of moderating this 1 minute silence for Professor Ojo. If you are speaking, we can't hear you, please.
Am I being heard now?
Yes, please, go ahead.
All right. Please, may we all be on our feet for the last respect for our colleague and friend. May we send our loving thoughts to our colleague and friend, Professor John Sunday Ojo, a fellow of this association, wishing him the help of God, the Almighty. May the light guide John Sunday Ojo on his path and lead him to ascent. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noya. So before I open up to the PE, I'd just like to remind us why we are here today. This memorial lecture is in honor of Professor S.W. Peters. We have held a night of tribute for him, which was both done by the NAPE and the NMGS Society. So this is really to cap it all off and honor him with a technical session. President-elect, please over to you to welcome everyone on the call, make the introductions. Thank you to our fellows and every distinguished members on the call, and then we'll start from there.
Thank you very much, Tumbosun. On behalf of the president of NAPE, Madam Patricia Ochogu, all the executive members of NAPE, fellows of NAPE, all the emeritus fellows of NAPE who are probably on this call, and the general members of NAPE. I welcome you all to this session, this webinar, which we are going to, I'm sure we are going to get a lot from our key speaker, Raul Bastante. Let me welcome everybody to this occasion officially. And before I go any further, let me just make a few remarks that the president is unable to be here. She called me yesterday to make her excuses. As the publicity secretary has said, most of them are out in Oka for the mini conference. She traveled yesterday, and the VP, I understand, is on his way today. The session actually starts today, the mini conference, and we have a lot of our members attending. The other issue is that today I had the publicity secretary say I will be moderating and handling. I'm sure my able fellow, Sir Abiodun Adesanya, who is here, will be able to handle this for me, because as the person who spoke on our safety moment rightly said, we have to be aware of COVID-19. And incidentally, today is the day I've been scheduled to go take my first vaccine. So actually, my schedule is from 11:30. And I was thinking, okay, I can be in this call until then before I start heading out to the medical center. Thank you, everybody, for being on this call. I am sure you're going to gain something from what Raul is going to present to us. And I am sure that a lot of us will be looking forward to it. The third thing I wanted to mention is to give much kudos to the organizers of this, the Uyo Calabar chapter, headed by Dr. Eke Akpan. The congratulations is not just from me, it's also from the president of NAPE, that the Uyo Calabar chapter, who is sponsoring this, have done a great thing, great job to source for funds and, prosecute this webinar. We thank the Uyo Calabar chapter and especially Eke Akpan for a great job he is doing. And we have also pledged our support to continue to assist the chapter and any other chapters that also are. When I say pledge our support, I'm not talking about NAPE support only, I'm talking about even personal support. So much commendations go to this chapter, and we think they're doing a good thing. And we pray that we will continue to get a lot of support and a lot of learnings to come from this sort of meetings. Thank you very much for coming, and I hope we're all going to have a great time and learn something. I like to use the word the president says all the time: we learn, we unlearn, and relearn. So I'm sure we are going to get something out of those three tenets. Whether we knew something or we didn't know it, we are sure we'll be able to get along just fine. Thank you very much and welcome. Over to you then.
All right, thank you very much, P, and welcome to everyone. So this technical session, like the P rightly said, will be presented by Mr. Raul Bastante. So I'll just take a shot at his profile and also Mr. Adesanya's profile before we go along. Please note that if you have questions during the presentation, please put them in the Q&A box, interact with the chat box, and we'll take your questions after he has finished his presentation. So to go over to Mr. Raul, Mr. Raul has over 15 years experience working on petroleum systems in many countries around the world. However, his special focus is on Northwest and Central Africa. He has worked in the last 8 years as geologist with a focus on Nigeria and Niger for 7 Energy International and Savannah Energy. Currently, he is the principal geologist of Savannah Energy and is responsible for the company's exploration and subsurface activities, including basin screening and ranking, petroleum and place systems identification, risking and prospect portfolio. Today, we'll be talking to us about one of the most prospective depot belts in the world, the Cretaceous systems that we have in Nigeria, and is talking about that also alongside the Niger Basin as well. To moderate this event, we have our erstwhile Mr. Abiodun Adesanya, FNAPE, and the CEO of DigiConnect. DigiConnect is an indigenous hydrocarbon asset management company. Mr. Abiodun needs no introduction, but I'd just like to highlight a couple of his achievements as a NAPE member and why he's the best fit for this role. Mr. Biodun has had extensive research and study done across Niger Delta in Nigeria. His company pioneered the use of computer workstation for seismic interpretation services in West Africa, and that was as far back as 1997. And he has worked with a lot of multinationals, Nigerian independents, and several marginal fleet operators, and some West African national companies. He is our member. He's also a member of several other organizations that lends their cost to the exploration activities in Nigeria and beyond. His brilliance has earned him several professional recognitions and awards. He's a distinguished fellow of our association and is also an alumni of Lagos Business School. So at this point, I'd like to hand over to you both, Mr. Adesanya to open, and then introduce Mr. Raul, who will then share his presentation material, and then we'll take it from there. Over to you.
Right. Thank you very much, Tubosun, and good morning to a very wet day in Lagos. I don't know what is going on in other parts of the country. But let me start by first and foremost thanking NAPE, most especially thanking the Uyo Calabar chapter for thinking it fit to ask me to come and chair today's event. Today's event in honor of somebody I admire a lot, even though I met him, our interactions were very brief. Professor S.W. Peters, I think, apart from hearing about him, before I finally met him in 1994, NAPE. When he came to present a paper, and what appealed to me at that time was his good mastery of English. I think the way he delivers when he's talking, there's some high level confidence and authority behind his delivery. And then I filed that experience away, and I did not see him again until 2017, when we were inaugurating the Uyo Calabar chapter of NAPE. And I had the privilege of steering that activity in my capacity then as the president of this very august association. Unfortunately, he's no longer here, and we couldn't have further interactions, but we miss him. And in honor of all that he has done to the geoscience community, especially here in Nigeria, his students, Uyo Calabar chapter thought it fit to honor him with this lecture and have Mr. Raul Bastante Abad to come and deliver this very important topic, which is quite reminiscent of SWP. That's the way I call him, SWP. So thank you very much, Savannah Energy, for accepting that Mr. Raul Bastante will do this delivery. And thank you, Uyo Calabar chapter, for accepting to sponsor. So without much ado, Tubosun had already introduced the speaker. The topic, I just need to add a few more points to the topic that we're about to listen to. The West African rift margin, which occurred as a result of the separation between the South American and African continent, has a lot of sub-basins in it. And these sub-basins, some of them, we are beginning to find them to be the emerging oil and gas provinces, especially in Africa. The Niger, the area in Niger where Raul will be speaking about is one of them. Our own Chad Basin, Gongola Basin, Yola Basin, the rest of the Benue Trough, down to the Dahomey Basin are all consequences of that separation. So there's a lot for us to benefit. Nigeria is in their need to unravel what the opportunities in its inland basins are. We will provide. So we will be very keen and we'll be very attentive to listening to Mr. Bastante. So Mr. Bastante, thank you very much for doing this paper for us. And through you, we thank your employers, Savannah Energy International, Savannah Energy, for accepting to do this. So over to you, Mr. Bastante, to deliver your paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So
should we be having somebody sharing the paper? Okay, good.
Okay, just one second.
Just one thing before you start, I will admonish the rest of us while he's delivering his paper to please mute your respective microphones so that we won't have any distracting noise in the background. And like Tiboson said earlier on, any questions you have, you probably actually have two options. You can either put it in the chat, and then, but we will not take them until at the end of Mr. Bastante's presentation. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for your introduction, Mr. Abiodun. First thing I would like to say in first place is I would like to thank the president of NAPE, Patricia Ochokbu, FNAPE, and the entire EXCO of NAPE APG for providing me a platform to my company and the opportunity to show present some of our work in the West Africa in Cretaceous basins. Secondly, and on behalf of Savannah Energy, our condolence goes to the family of late Professor Sunday Peters over the demise of such a brilliant geologist at this time. So may Lord grant them and NAPE family the fortitude to bear this great loss. The talk of today is about hidden treasures of West Central African Rift Basins. And I would like to, as just Mr. Abiodun just mentioned, I would like to show you the reality of Anambra Basin, but also try to unveil the potential of the Nigerian inland basins. And just mention as well the huge contributions from Peters in all the literature about the Nigerian basins. Well, thank you. So just a quick look at the disclaimer of this presentation. So the agenda of today is, I will give you, I'm sure all of you know well, but just an overview of the West Central African Rift System and a bit of the plate tectonics. Then we will review the regional geology, especially in terms of units and as well salt rock and other petroleum system elements in the Nigerian inland basin. And then I will focus on an Anambra basin, which show an enormous potential. And as well, after that, I will try to show you a bit the reality of Niger and Agadem Basin, and I will do interesting correlations for the petroleum system between the both two basins. So in this map, found Europe in 2005, we can see the central and northern part of Africa, and we can see the different Mesozoic and Cenozoic basins in Africa. So in Nigeria, we can see Benue Trough with Gongola and Yola basins. In Niger, we found Termit, where it's sitting Agadem Basin. Dova, Bongor, and Dosio, and plus Shalamat basins in Chad, and as well Muglat and Melut in South Sudan. These are the main Cretaceous rift basins in this system, and we will go in more detail about these basins. So mention that why the rift basin are interesting basins. Well, I have to say that most of the rift basins, and we evaluate in the history, plenty of them they found hydrocarbon, and almost 1/3 of the discovered global hydrocarbon comes from the rift basins. Also, I have to highlight that 50% of the world petroleum reserve have been formed on the Cretaceous period. The implication of the supershoot rocks in the Cretaceous is the region of that. So just to review quickly the situation of the basins in the West Central African Rift, there are 3 different trends in these basins. One is east-west, as the case of Bongo and Dosio and Dova. These basins found oil and gas in the upper, but also in the lower Cretaceous. But I have to say that this southern or central part of the rift only contain continental deposits. Apart of this, the other trend we identify the northwest southeast basin trend, like Muglat, Melut, and Termit, but also Vida basin in Nigeria. These basins contain oil and gas accumulation mainly in the upper Cretaceous and in the Paleogeography, and they contain thick sequence of marine deposits. So there is a different trend in the southwest northeast trending basins, like the case of Benue Trough or Shalamat Basin. And as well, in these basins, the hydrocarbon have been found and discovered in the upper Cretaceous, such as Anambra. So the West Central African Rift system consists of a series of highly oil prolific Cretaceous and Tertiary rift with over 6 billion barrels of oil discovered to date. So important area. So let's have a look at the setting of the West Central African Rift system in this free Air Anomaly Map from public data. From you can see the BEI short. Quickly, you can see that it's sitting in a very anomalous fractured zone in the earth, probably the most important one, and it's representing a weakness zone on the crust that cross all the way from the eastern part of Africa all the way to the Pacific, the Amazon River. Zones, doesn't matter how you want to call it. They are the areas, the preferential areas for the clastic delivery systems. So it's the areas where you connect the onshore with the deep water in offshore. So keep this in mind. And also I would like to highlight that the lows in blue are, you can see here in Suriname or in Angola or in Nigeria offshore and Equatorial Guinea, known as a golden triangle, is one of the most prolific areas in the world in terms of discoveries in offshore. So at this point, let's have just a quick review of the paleogeography in terms of plate tectonic. So the West Central African rift start in the early days in the Aptian with the rift in the separation between Africa and South America. So in this time, only continental deposits expected in the area. After that, in the late Albian and early Cenomanian, we found the first marine transgression. So the sea flooding Bennu trough, and as the Atlantic Ocean kept spreading. After this first marine transgression, we found in the Turonian and second marine transgression from the Atlantic, and it's a key moment in Africa, in the West part, because it's the moment where was connected Tethys and the Atlantic's ocean through Africa, providing epicontinental oceans with a restriction in the circulation, providing excellent organic phases, and some of them, probably one of the best soot rock in the world, come from this time. But also in Nigeria, especially in the south and in Bennu, we have in the Cenozoic and in the Eocene another marine transgression. So keep this moment because we will refer to this during the presentation. So let's have a look in more detail in the Nigerian inland basins. So in this map, modified frongenic in 1982, we can see the Nigerian border with the West Central African rift basins. Basically, in previous years, we review all the basins in the West Central African rift outside Nigeria. But also, as you can see in green, we look at the regional geology of all the inland basins. After that, we create the basin ranking criteria based on the petroleum system elements. And based on this methodology, Anambra Basin was the top ranking basin as a potential. So let's have a quick look of across the Nigerian inland basins. So in this figure from Obaye in 2009, you can see from the full sequence from north to south in Nigeria. In purple, you can see the marine sequence, and in dotted line, you can see the continental or shallow marine sequence. So we can recognize the first marine transgression during the Albian. You can see here in the southern half of Bennu Trough, marine deposit present, but also in the Cenomanian, the second marine transgression, and the Santonian event. We will talk later of the implication of this tectonic event in the petroleum system. But again, providing and keep going with the marine deposition all across Bennu, and as well some thermal tectonics in the north and south of Niger. Here you can see the soot rock levels with the size of dots trying to represent the quality of these soot rocks. And as you can see, Anambra Basin is the most potential one. I just want to highlight, when you observe the marine sequence during the Cretaceous, there is mainly shales and there is not representing reservoirs. That is one of the risks in Anambra, and we will explain and we will unlock where these reservoirs are. So in terms of geology in Nigeria and Anambra, we start with the first marine deposition of Asu River Group in the Albian, an unconformity on top with the second marine transgression and deposition of Eseaku Shale Group. After that, in the late Turonian and early Cenonian, we have Agu Shale Group, and after that is the Santonian transgression event. Later on, all the deposition was shifted westward to the actual Anambra, with the deposition of a Nubu shale group, plus all the Maastrichtian units and the Paleocene, with the lower Core Mesa or Mamu equivalent, Ayali, and the upper Core Mesa and Shuka. Later on, we have the marine transgression in the Eocene with the deposition of Imo shale group. And after that is the Messinian conformity and the evolution of the Niger Delta. I have to mention as well some key elements in Anambra. One is the Abakaliki High, created during the Santonian, and the generation of Africo syncline in Calabar flank, and the Anambra synclinorion, or the depositional axis of Anambra. As well, we will have a look how is the subsurface along the cross section of Anambra. But first of all, I would like to highlight the implication of the Santonian event. So in the early days, from the rift in Benue Trough, we had a continental rift basin. We filled with sediment, plastic plus marine deposit. But in the Santonian, we have a transpression, we have the close of the Benue Trough and the generation of Anambra Basin and Africo syncline. So after this process, in this figure, after Murad, in 1972, we see the Abakaliki High, or the configuration of the southern part of Nigeria, and the generation of the Anambra Basin properly. So you can see Anambra Basin was receiving from the Santonian time a huge amount of deposits coming from Niger River and Benue River, which I have to say is one of the most prolific drainage system in the entire world. So we will back to them later. So in terms of the cross section, just highlight the Abakaliki High with the Africo syncline and the Anambra synclinorium. In the cross section as well, I would like to highlight in red is representing the Santonian tectonic event, is the time of the generation of Anambra, but still you can see the post-Santonian, or the pre-Santonian, sorry, marine deposits, but also all the post-Santonian deposits in Anambra. What I'm trying to represent with these sand bodies is the reality of Anambra, but what we don't know is what are the deposition of these sand bodies, and as well highlight the lack of a bigger structure like anticlines. So in Anambra, we will be talking about the stratigraphic place all the time. Seismic status-wise, well, based on my understanding, that is the seismic coverage in Anambra. Probably there is a more seismic, but that's my understanding. So you can see that very limited seismic coverage and old seismic. So this basin will require extensive acquisition of modern 2D and 3D seismic. Also, in terms of well exploration, this basin was relatively explored in the 50s by Shell, and 60s and 70s by ELF as well in Egypt. And just have a look quickly of how was the real result. So first of all, Shell drilled 9 wells with 3 gas discoveries. Later, ELF drilled 3 wells with 1 oil and gas discovery and 1 gas well, so high rate of success. Later on, Shell back to the basin with these 3 wells and 2 discoveries again, 1 gas and the other was gas and condensate. After that, ELF drilled 5, Ajib drilled in the 84 wells, and all of them were dry. And finally, ELF drilled another 5 wells with only 1 discovery. So based on this, 19 wildcat wells were drilled in the basin, and 7 of them found hydrocarbon. So high possibility of success for the time, and for the knowledge of the basin is excellent, I have to say. Just want to keep in mind that most of the discoveries took place in the eastern half of the Anambra Basin near Enugu flank. That is really important, and I will show you the reason of that later. So just a quick understanding of the petroleum system based on the drilling. First marine transgression, the Albion group, no hydrocarbon discovered yet in Anambra Basin, but as all of you know, in Dahomey environment with Seme and Aye fields, this play was discovered and have been in production. After that, we have the second marine transgression with the maximum Turonian, and there we found the proven play is the Turonian with Makurdi sandstones and shielded by Enugu shales, and probably providing hydrocarbon from there as well. Also, the Coniacian play with Abu shale and the Agbani sands. This play as well have been proved by 4 or 5 wells in Anambra Basin. After that, we found the post-Santonian sequence, proven plays as well up in this sequence, like the Campanian play with all these wells you can see in the slide discovered in display. But also in the Maastrichtian, we found another effective play, and I have to say it's the unique oil production in Anambra. So as you can see, the pre-Santonian plays just discovered dry and wet gas, and the post-Santonian, they found gas plus oil. So let's have a look to the gravity data, public domain of Anambra Basin and the entire Nigerian inland basins. So in blue, you can see the deep areas, and in pink, the highs in the basement. I have to say the most important thing for me in this data is that we were able to locate the OCV. OCV, I have to explain, is the continental oceanic crust boundary, and it's key to understand where is deposited the clastic delivery system. So highlight the Abakaliki High, Afib Coast Incline, and Anambra Basin. I have to say that this is a few license in Anambra to highlight Enugu area, Enugu flank area. So looking at this figure, imagine the amount of plastic supply we receive in this area. So let's have a look how is the profile across the gravity data. So we draw a profile in the gravity with these control points A, B, C, and D. What is representing A is the basin floor, B the present day outer edge of the delta fan, in C is the present day coast of the Niger Delta, and the present day OCV in D. And the rest is the basement profile for Anambra. So looking at this, all this huge thickness correspond to the proximal area in Niger Delta. I have to say that it's around 9 or 10 kilometers depth, and is due to this drop down is due to the isostatic loading of the sediments coming through the Benue Trough. So we can see the north of Anambra Basin in a high position, in high stand position with erosion and the deposition in the onboard of the continental crust near the OCV area. So we can say that we postulate this zone in the onboard of the continental crust as a very potential area for deep water fan systems. So let's have a look how is the high picture of the West Africa. You can see Romance transport zone going and limiting Ghana and going through the Beni, Dahomey environment, and Chain and Charco transport zone going all the way to Benue Trough. The OCV location and the location of Jubilee field, which changed the exploration in 2005 in the deep water environment and changed the view of the exploration. So I have to say that the displacement in the mid-oceanic ridge is exactly the same that the displacement we observe between Jubilee and Anambra Basin. So showing the postulated zone for the fan deposition in the water. So Anambra Basin is really the West Africa transform margin geological model as Jubilee field is. So let's have a look in more detail at Jubilee. So this is a gravity map of the area. You see the Tano Basin with Tano high and the low where Jubilee fan and this and Teweneboa channel complex have been discovered. The OCP location. And the important question here is the bypass zone for the clastic delivery in the deep water is what we call NIC point. So it's connecting, it's a key observation. So how is in Anambra? This is again a gravity map. We observe Abakaliki high with the main lows, Afikpo and Anambra, and all the drainage system coming to Anambra. So again, we identify in the gravity an important NIC point in this area in Anambra and clear canyons observed in the gravity. Those are the bypass zones, the key pathways for the clastic input and be deposited in the low stands in the northern part of Niger Delta and the southern part of Anambra Basin. Also, the deeper part is where the thicker black shale sequence from Cretaceous are present. They are mature, mainly for gas, and represent the kitchen area. So hydrocarbon migration northward is our expectation. And I have to say that in Afikpo area, where there is no presence of the post-Santonium and the Abu shales, and no shale, a concentration of oil seeps in this area is enormous. Instead, in the Anambra Basin, we do not see oil seeps and outcrops. So potentially it's preserving, or it's an indicative of the seal effectiveness and the preservation of the petroleum system. So let's have a look at the seismic in Jubilee and Teweneboa fields and compare with Anambra Basin. Here you can see a strong packages with a strong amplitude. These are the reservoir levels surrounded by blank seismic representing the shields, providing top shields and lateral shields. No structures, all stratigraphic. So let's compare with Anambra. So comparing the seismic with Anambra, what I can say is both areas, so no structural closures or lack of structures. Both areas showing a stratigraphic shapes with a strong amplitude representing the reservoirs and surrounded by low amplitude seismic phases representing the shields. So stratigraphic shapes develop in marine continental slopes, and both packages in Jubilee and in Anambra, same age, geographically very close and sharing geological evolution. So let's show the final model for Anambra Basin. This is the gravity, so I'm going to show a section through this line. So from north to south, you can see the Asu the initial, the full sequence in Anambra, that you can see the shape that we have a shelf domain, and around the southern part of Anambra, we have the shale break and the continental slope to the basin floor, or one step before the basin floor in the Niger Delta. But the important conclusion is like we have these slopes from the shale break. So Siem Reef sequence, continental deposits, marine transgressions, deep marine sequence, then the regressive post-Santonian sequence, shallow marines, and later on the deltaic and paralic deposits. So the shale domain represents the Niger Delta bypass zone in Anambra, and the rest is the inboard, very proximal part of Niger Delta. So I mentioned before that most of the exploration or the discoveries are around the flank of Abakaliki. But I have to say that in most of the wells, in the Cretaceous, apart of the Maastrichtian and Campanian, there is reduced reservoir intervals, or very limited. That is a key question to resolve. And we think with the basement map, we resolve and we found the pathways and the canyons. And the result is like, is plenty of channels complex stuck in the Cretaceous, in the deep marine Cretaceous, as I show in the figure. I have to say that Akukwa clip one of these Turonian sand bodies and discover gas and condensate. This is the proof that the analog of Teweneboa and Jubilee. So it's proven that we are in the West Africa transform margin petroleum system. But also we found these sands all across the Cretaceous, and it's just a matter to identify where these sands have been deposited. So this is the model. So Anambra Basin is a rare area where the West Africa deep water play is in onshore domain. This is key. But we need to understand that Anambra Basin have very limited seismic coverage. Whatever we need to do or we want to explore will require seismic, 3D seismic, and completely different view. We need to apply the West Africa deep water play ideas. So from this point, I would like to have a quick review of an Agadem Basin. As you all know, this basin is only split in two companies which hold the full acreage of the basin with a 50% each. And in this map, you can see where is Agadem Basin as well Anambra and the entire Nigeria. So Savannah Energy is holding R1, R2, R3, and R4 license. Just a review of the seismic exploration status in Agadem. You can see it's completely different status compared with Anambra. Here in this basin, we have plenty of 2D seismic and extensive 3D, more than 3D seismic. But also in terms of drilling, more than 200 wells have been drilled in the last years with a very high rate of success. It's an 80%. And I have to mention as well that our company drilled 5 exploration wells in our 3 area with 5 discoveries, so 100% success rate. So let's have a look quickly at the stratigraphy of this basin. So as you can see here, we found a scene rift sequence, okay, with a non-conformity on top. This is the rift, the initial rift of the basin. After that, in the unconformity, we see a first marine transgression with marine deposits, and after that, the second marine transgression, exactly the same as we mentioned for Anambra and Nigeria. This is the moment of the deepest marine sequence with the maximum Turonian. Remember that this is the moment where Atlantic Ocean and Tethys were connected to Africa. Later on, we found again an nonconformity, the transpressive events in the Santonian observed as well in Agadem, very evident. After that, we have the deposition of the post-Santonian. Let's say that this is equivalent of a Nugu intervals, and Madama, which is the equivalent of Ayali. And I have to mention as well that in this basin, we found at the bottom of Madama, equivalent of Ayali, we found the lower Cold Mesa, exactly the same than in Anambra, but also the upper Cold Mesa and Shuka equivalent. So exactly the same geology and lithologies in the end of the Cretaceous. Also then we have this sequence in the Paleocene, which correspond is the lateral equivalent of the early days of the Niger Delta, and in this case in Agadem is the main play. Also, we identify a Miocene unconformity but it's not so relevant for this talk. So similar regional Cretaceous geological process, sequence, lithologies, that in Anambra. So we have exactly the same geology and it's easy to correlate. So we can use this basin to unlock many unknowns in Anambra due to the quality of the data. In terms of discovery, just a quick review, nothing have been discovered like in Anambra in the early Cretaceous. For the pre-Santonian, in this case, minnow drilling, one discovery, but very unexplored play. In the post-Santonian, is still Yogu. There is more drilling, especially in the upper part, when the reservoir are more extensive. 14 discoveries. Madama, like in Ayali, only one discovery. I know that in Anambra as well was found hydrocarbon at this level, but I have to say that is not an effective play. It's not working. There are minor accumulations. And in the so-called alternates in Agadem is the main play. It's a low risk play. It's a shallow play, but I have to say that have a high rate of success. It's an 80%. That is a heavy oil with low API. When instead the Cretaceous drilling is showing a higher GOR and as well a higher API. So bringing solutions for as well for development. So I just want to show the regional configuration of Agadem for you to know how is the structural and as well the main play. So this is the top of the so-called alternates main play. This is the two rifting moments in the early Cretaceous and the Paleocene. And here you can see that this basin is not a classical extensional rift. It's a continuous transpressional rift basin. And that is explained when the figure I showed you at the beginning with the free Air Anomaly Map in this shear zone. So it's the West Central African rift was predominant in the strike slip or the shear. So shoot rock for the so-called alternates is coming from the post-Santonian lower Yogu, marine rocks, or good organic phases, and they are mature in most of the basin, so providing hydrocarbon for the alternates. So I will show you as well in this section is from north to south of Agadem Basin. So you can see we can recognize the lower Cretaceous unit in the early rift, the pre-Santonian upper Cretaceous, equivalent to Eseaku, and as well Abu sequence or groups in Anambra. We have the Santonian transpressive event. It might look the generation of accommodation space in the central part of the basins, the same that happened in Anambra when we shifted and generated the accommodation space in Anambra, but also the Cenozoic sequence. You can see on red dotted lines some example of the drilling. So most of the drilling have been focused in the so-called alternates level, and just few wells or minor exploration have been done in the post-Santonian upper Cretaceous. So still a lot of potential for the deep Cretaceous as well in Agadem. Just to refresh a bit how works the depositional environment for me, the next step in this basin should be the deep water and deep Cretaceous. So let's compare both basins, Anambra and Agadem. So Chin Rift, we correlate very well the first marine transgression as well in the Albocenomanian, the second marine transgression in the early Turonian, the maximum flooding where Atlantic and Tethys were connected, observed in all the basins. the Santonium transpression as well. And as I mentioned before, all the Maastrichtian and companion sequence with the lower core mesa, Ayali, Madama, and the upper core mesa with the rest. So very good correlation between the two basins, and with most of the exploration focus in the post-Santonian and the shallow part. So there you can see where the hidden treasures are in Anambra Basin and in Agadem. So the next place to explore for me is obvious that have to be in Anambra. The same model that Jubilee and Teweneboa and the offshore exploration in deep water, that benefiting of the onshore domain. And also, the Anambra Basin is an area where it's just the next step out from Niger, and represent a super interesting area to explore and bring plenty of benefits for Nigeria. But also, I want to use this opportunity to highlight that Calabar Flank show very good potential in the Cretaceous as well, requiring a modern seismic that the plays there have been proved, like in Dahomey Bowman with Aye Field. So I think this is the hidden treasure in the Cretaceous for Nigeria. Well, thank you very much for your attention and for the opportunity to present my work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raul, for such a brilliant delivery, brilliant presentation, well-researched paper. Thank you for throwing some light into the basins in Nigeria, especially the Anambra Basin, where you focused extensively. Let me try as quickly as possible before I go to questions, before I open the floor for questions, to summarize what I have had in very few words. You started on a sort of global scale, letting us know that the West African, the Cretaceous basins worldwide contributes about 50% of the entire oil in the world. And then you began focusing in the area of interest, and you identified the various basins that we have. You showed us a regional map of the basins all the way from Nigeria down to the Eastern Africa and also to the North Africa as well. You mentioned that these basins, if we look at the geomorphology, you could identify three trends: the east-west trend, which is the one that goes into Cameroon, northern part of Cameroon and Chad. That's where you have the Doba, Dosep Basin, and so on. Then you have the northwest and southeast trending ones, and that's where you have the Termit, Nigerian Bida, and then you have one at the extreme part of East Africa as well. They are usually marine. Then you spoke also about the southwest, northeast trending basins, and this is where most of the Benue Trough is, and altogether you say that there's an estimated volume of about 6 billion barrels of oil that these basins could be holding. Of course, you went into the origin of rifts. You mentioned, apart from the way the continents separated and how these basins came up, you mentioned that the rifts are because of fractures, and you were able to tell us as well that in the West African basins, we can see from onshore shallow to deep systems. The plate tectonics, the age, from the Albian times to the Albian to Santonian times to Turonian times, when the initial separation, later when the sea came in the Phenomenon to Albian times, and then when you have the connection with North Africa in the Turonian times. You mentioned that. Then you focused on Anambra Basin. Basically what you mentioned was that Anambra Basin had a couple of wells drilled into it, 19 wells already drilled, and 7 have been successful, all located on the eastern part of the basin. That's on the western part of the basin. And that is basically talking about the western part of the Abakaliki High. And you mentioned that Shell, ELF, Ajip, all had drilled wells in the past. I think we could add as well that Orient Petroleum is been trying to do some work as well in the area in the last 5 to 6 years. It is worthy to note that because you made a comparison with the Jubilee field in Ghana, offshore Ghana, and you basically say that the oceanic continental boundary sort of puts Jubilee field to the north of that boundary, and that same boundary is Anambra Basin is in a similar position. So Anambra Basin could be said to be an equivalent of the Jubilee field. And it's very important while studying Anambra Basin to also study Jubilee field. You then went on to mention that the source rock kitchen area, which are typical of, which enabled us to see a lot of oil seeps in the Abakaliki area. They were completely absent in the Anambra Basin. We don't have oil seeps in the Anambra Basin area, but we have it to the eastern part, and that is very instructive. And then you end up by saying that the age, geological age, the Anambra Basin is very similar. Is geologically close to the Jubilee area. Then you spoke about the fact that the opportunity in the hidden treasures in the Anambra Basin area will be more of the complex channel systems that were seen in the deep water area of Jubilee, for example. It's expected that this will be replicated in Anambra. And you mentioned a particular well, Okuka 1, that happens to touch one of those sand bodies. These sand bodies, like you identified, because they are channel sands, are quite disconnected, quite complex, but they are all present in the post-reef system in a deep water setting. And then you went on to extend the area of your talk to the Termit region in Niger. Again, this is a reef system similar to the Anambra system, where you've done a lot more work because you have more seismic data and more controls and more wells, and they've been almost 100% success drilling rates that you've recorded. That's Savannah Energy, your company, and which is in contrast to the Anambra that is still quite deficient of substantial seismic coverage. So critical information needed is additional seismic in the Anambra Basin. There were no discoveries as well in the Termit region in the early Cretaceous, similar to the Anambra Basin. The difference, though, is that while you have an extensional system in the Anambra, you have a more of a strike slip system in the Termit region. There are quite a lot of opportunities, like I said, in the deeper reservoirs, the deeper areas, in the deep water areas. Good correlation. You were able to do correlation between the Anambra and the Termit region, and then you cap it up by saying that even the Calabash trough, Incan trough, needs to be looked at. Of course, deficient as well in seismic, that there could be some opportunities there as well to look at. Overall, I think the main message here is that there are fantastic opportunities in the Nigerian section of the West African Rift Basin systems, and we need seismic. We need to do a lot more exploration work, and then we need this data to be researched upon properly, which always leads me to a point that I've always advocated, that information sharing is very key. Yes, some of these things may be tight information, but we need to look at the way what information needs to get into the public domain as quickly as possible, so that there will be valuable contributions by researchers, and then we will be able to unlock the opportunities that these basins provide. So thank you very much. I think I'm not sure I captured everything, but I tried my best, Raul. So if it was a physical meeting, we would have said a round of applause. So, but I will just do my hand like this, and I admonish everybody else to please just do this in appreciation of a fantastic presentation that Raul Bastante has given us this afternoon. So without much ado, I'm just going to quickly go into the chat and see, or if you could. Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Abion, I just want to say something else. Your summary of the presentation has been excellent. I also want to highlight that the information sharing is key. And also I want to highlight and remind this, that I show you what is the model present in Anambra Basin. So now it's a question to start to work and try to acquire modern data to unlock that model that have been identified and is working in the basin and is close to the infrastructures of the Niger Delta, and it's an excellent step out from the tertiary.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. So I'm not the administrator, but I can see the comments. I'm looking for the questions to see if anyone. I think one point that has been mentioned, one request, is that this particular paper can be shared, and Dr. Ekere Akpan had already graciously accepted that he has posted his email, that please make a request to him for the paper, so there's no problem with that. The very first question I can see here,
Mr. Adesoya, just so you know, there are hands raised up. I'm not sure we'll be able to take them. So if you don't mind, please put your questions in the chats. But if it is a burning question, we will take you if there is still time. But there, we can go ahead with questions in the chat box first. Okay.
Okay. So can we have the slides? Yes, you can have the slides if you send your email to ekere.akpan@savannah-energy.com. A lot of people are appreciative of the paper. Question: what could be the major reason we have not been able to see substantive prospect in the Nigerian side of the Chad Basin? I noticed that the presentation didn't go in that direction, maybe because Mr. Bastante doesn't have as much information of what's going on in that area. If you notice, the presentation has been largely focused in their area of activity. the Termit Basin and the Anambra Basin. But again, I will let Mr. Bastante say a word or two to that question. So that's one question. You could please note the questions down. Someone is again asking, please, to what extent is the accessibility of these data sets? I don't know what data sets. I'm trying to answer them if I can as well. I don't know what data set the person that asked the question is referring to exactly. But if we're talking about the slides, we've already said that they will be available. Then there's somebody who is saying, I'm not able to see the email. The email is ekere, ekere.akpan, akpan, @savannah-energy.com. Please bear that in mind. So I can't see more questions here.
There is a question on the Q&A.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I can see there are three.
I can read it for you though.
No, I have them.
You see it.
How can how can I get in touch with the presenter? I want to have his email. That's one. Then Dr. Victor Agbe Davis. Ooh, can you please share the email address in the chat box? It's there already. Kere.akpan@savannah-energy.com. So those are the three questions have become two suddenly, but I've read what
there is
what
another one
there.
that Noye was attempting to answer. It says, with the level of urbanization in Anambra, how can we achieve 3D seismic data acquisition there? This is from Pastor Dan for FNAPE.
Okay. Well, again, I don't want to jump into the way to help Raul, but because we know what the answer to that is, of course, Anambra Basin is a built-up area, highly habitated. The capacity to run your conventional land 3D seismic will be impaired. So you have to have the other methods of acquisition, like vibrosites in places and stuff like that. Your lines does not have to be straight lines. It can be jagged and all of that. So it can be done. I mean, there are ways to do that. It might be a bit pricey to do, but it's doable all the same. I mean, you will run the conventional straight line on obstructed type of 3D seismics where you can, and then you supplement them with these other methods of acquisition. Mr. Dr. Laoki, where does Anambra Basin stop over the southern Benue Trough? So I guess that's one question that Mr. Bastante should please take note. Where does the boundary, the northern part of Anambra or the northeastern boundary of Anambra Basin, where does it stop and where does the southern Benue Trough start? I think that's the question there. Then I have Christopher Iwobi. Do we have fossil evidence to support these deep water depositional systems? Again, that would be, if you have the answer to that, Mr. Bastante, we would like to hear it. Thomas Harry is saying that structural or stratigraphic. I think it's combination of those that we actually have in this area. So I don't know. I'm trying to see if there are other questions that I've missed out. Okay. So Mr. Bastante, let me allow you to try and respond to these questions. I've tried to answer some as quickly as I can based on what we know already of these areas and the environment. Over to you.
Okay, thank you again. Well, about the northern part of Benue Trough, the Chad Basin, I have to say that there is not too many information. I know that there is seismic and also some drillings in the old times, but also recently in the last 10 years, there have been a drilling activity. But in this case, I have to say that it's not too much investigation what I did on this area. We know the geology, we know the petroleum system elements, but we don't have the update of the recent exploration activities.
Let me say something to that. The question is the southern part of the Benue Trough. I mean, the boundary between the northern part of Anambra Basin and the southern part of Benue Trough.
Yeah, so the first question was the one I just answered, and then was about this question, and let me say that if in the gravity map I show, you know, actually the shape of Benue River, it changed 90 degrees from the Benue Trough in the middle Benue, and when you reach lower Benue, they switch due to the Abakaliki high, turn 90 degrees, and then when join Niger River, they flow together south to the northern part of Niger Delta. This element, I think, probably is not is related with the alpine. So it's very recent, that change in the river. And the separation for me, based on the gravities, where I put the nick point, I know that there is more sedimentation corresponding to Anambra, that the proper basin with the low is from the Abakaliki high to all the Santonium. So for me, the northern limit is Benue River. And also, if you have the opportunity to look back to the figure of the gravity, I need to say that in the middle Benue or in lower Benue, there are a couple of lows in the continental shelf, based on the model I show you. But I have to say, be careful with that, because as you all know, it's like, I don't remember Naharawaya, sorry, the name of the cities, but in that area, in the lower Benue, is well known the presence of salt brain short. So salt water coming from the subsurface, for me, that is pointing to early rift lacustrine pot or deposits that is being, so that can create an effect of a deeper basin that probably what's really is middle and the lower Benue. That's something I want to mention, just for you to keep in mind, that maybe, I'm sure that Anambra gravity map in terms of relation is fine. The depth conversion is not easy, so the depth can change, but what I'm sure is that the resolution to highlight the canyons in the continental slope out there, and when you check the wells and the location and you check the seismic, you see this complex, you see this amplitude package of reservoirs, and for me, it's obvious that there are continental slope channel complex. Still, I've never seen in Anambra where the fans probably are underneath the northern part of the Niger Delta, but for sure, in the Anambra domain and in the southern part of Thick Coast syncline, we found this complex for sure. Mm-hmm. And the gravity is a good tool to drive it.
Okay. I mean, one thing I can contribute to that is that in the southern part of the Anambra Basin, which is basically the onset of the Niger Delta, we equally begin to see a deltaic system coming up, and then you see shale diapirs, huge symmetrical shale diapirs in the southern part, which are similar to the present day deep water, where you have shale diaprism activities And that basically tells you that you are at the limit of the Anambra Basin and you are transiting into the tertiary Niger Delta. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's very good comment what you say, because I think what is required now, because I have to mention that the short of the data, I look at the literature, and there is plenty of contribution from excellent geologists in the area. And I think it's now you have the right model to pursue, to unveil the potential of this, especially in Anambra, which I think will give you the clue to step out in future to another inland basins. But for sure, especially now, should be focusing in Anambra because the potential is enormous. And you will be in positions to show to the rest of the world that you will prove the deep water play, that all the big companies explore in the water, you have it in the onshore. And that is, it will bring a good impact in the industry and a lot of benefits for my area. And that's really important. But now it's time for all the excellent Nigerian geologists to work together and put all these observations you all know and fit it in this model and go to unlock this Cretaceous treasure.
Yes. Okay. Muiwa Lawoki has another question. Where do you project the more attractive basin floor in Anambra Basin? Southern Benue Trough? No, I wouldn't think it's in the Southern Benue Trough. I think it will be in the Southern Anambra, well, in the Southern Anambra Basin itself, just like I said, because this is where the shale diaprisms, similar to the deepwater present-day shale diaprisms, are occurring, and we naturally will expect that there should be some basin floor fans in that area. I mean, if you're talking about in terms of reservoir, but if you're talking about basin floor, where do you project the more attractive basin floor in Anambra Basin versus in this? I don't know if you have any comment on that, Raul.
Well, I have to say that today was more focused in the Cretaceous. Obviously, our understanding of the Nigerian inland basins go further to this presentation, of course. There's plenty of hidden treasures in other areas. I have to say as well, in Anambra, in the Ameki units and in Imo, I have to say that in the south, there is plenty of levels, strong reservoir levels within the thick shale package of the Eocene. And most of them, they are sitting in, or they sit in the, or place in the, at the bottom of the continental slope. And there are areas that we observe on seismic where these fans and channel complex were stuck. And you can see on the seismic, but the seismic in that area is really poor. There are big faults crossing the sequence, but as you follow with, as you progress with the model on the seismic, they are evident that there are good basin floor fans at the Imo time. Because if not, you go too deep for the basin floor in the Cretaceous. That's why I think potentially it's more about the continental slope, a channel complex, than the proper basin floor fans in the number.
Okay. Okay. All right. I guess taking care. Okay, there was a question from Ebonyi State University. Ebonyi State is underlain by Precambrian basement complex, Cretaceous units, and Anambra. What is the reserve estimate of this? Oh no, we do not have that information. I can tell you that information is not available today. All right.
Sorry, Mr. Abiodun, I just come to my mind with another question that came up before. It was about the other areas. I have to say that for me, I found very interesting the Gongola Basin, but also Yola is a big uncertainty for me and attract my attention because it's the same trend than Doba.
Doba, yeah.
So due to prior experience, we know quite well that geology and it's difficult to understand. It's in the early days, the understanding of geology, but maybe it's something interesting and worth to have a look. The potential of that failed arm and Gongol as well, as you all know, can bring gas discoveries.
Yeah, I mean the Yola arm, which is truncated by the basement before you then get into the Chadian area. It's quite an interesting area. It's production coming from the Doba Basin, I think by ExxonMobil some years ago, and they have production and an evacuation line through Cameroon ports to export and so on. Certainly, the Frontier Exploration Service, which is the arm of NNPC, saddled with providing what I will think should be the front end exploration efforts that will generate the initial data that will then create unlock the investments and opportunities in this area, will be more appropriate to be responsible for those kind of information and data gathering and strategic data gathering, I would say, just so that we have the initial sufficient first-time information to revive or review these potentials that these basins have. Okay, I think yes.
Also, the last message I want to send to the audience is, like, in terms of the seismic. In the past, when I was working in Savannah Energy, we were looking at such modern seismic, and we were testing and checking the possibility to use tracks with vibrosails in the basin instead of the classical dynamite and all that. So different methodologies away from the explosive, and so there are interesting options there. And I have to say as well, in the entire Nigerian inland basins, Anambra show the lowest risk, and that can bring enough information to mature the basin and step out and get better understanding of other areas in Benue Trough.
Okay. Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tubosun, I think I've done my bit. It's been a very interesting, very rewarding presentation, and I want to thank especially Raul Bastante for taking time to deliver this paper, and to Ekere Akpan and the entire Uyo Calabar chapter executives for sponsoring the event. Of course, we can't forget in whose honor we are making this presentation, the late Professor S.W. Peters. He will have been so proud to listen to this kind of paper as well, to listen to the topics. And I'm pretty sure he would have come up with quite a lot of questions and comments and clarifications, because he had a very good knowledge of what we're talking about. And he's been an advocate of it even before this present day efforts and interest are beginning to show in this area. I remember clearly now that the paper he presented way back then that I met him had to do with the opportunities in the Rift Basin systems, even though he was talking about the Calabar area at that time and the Anambra area. And so thank you very much for the opportunity to chair, and over to you, Tubosun.
All right, thank you very much, sir. I would just like to recognize quickly, without of course going over your presentation, the presence of Mr. Alex Tucker, FNAPE, who happens to be the new GM for Chad Basin. I know you talked about this, just to rein him in quickly on that is part of this meeting, and there are a couple of things sitting in his shop right now for us as an association. And we're happy to have him as our immediate past president. So the channel of communication is even swifter. So things that we have heard in this is the need for information sharing. We'll be looking out to you, sir, to help us with that in the industry. And we have it here. The hidden treasures are in the channel complex systems of our deep water systems. So thank you very much, Mr. Raul. To close the technical session with Mr. Addison have handled very beautifully. I would like to call the sponsor, who is also a member of the executive, Mr. Dr. Akwan, for his sponsor's remark.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. And on behalf of your Calabar chapter, we are so excited with this package, this presentation. I had a lot of confidence in my colleague, Mr. Raul, that he will deliver this package, having worked extensively in this region. I want to appreciate everyone that has taken time to connect to this interesting talk by Raul. We want to say on behalf of your Calabar chapter that SWP has created an irreplaceable vacuum in our chapter, and we are still mourning him even till now. He was one of our pillars in terms of strengthening and the dynamics of the operability of the chapter. And we won't forget him in a hurry. On behalf of the chapter, I want to thank NAPE, the president of NAPE, Patricia Uchubu, FNAPE, the vice president, I opened this talk, Dr. James Edet, FNAPE, for providing the platform and in this webinar for us to bring this talk to the public. Finally, I want to also thank my employer, that is Savannah Energy, and the solid team, my vice president here connected, Dr. Christophe Ribeiro, who is the vice president of Savannah Energy, for providing, driving the approval process for us to have this presentation aid to the public. It's worthwhile that he was also taking his time to review this package so that it will be worthwhile and interesting to the public. Our heart also goes to the family of SW Peters at this time where they have lost a pillar in the family, and the entire family of geoscientists in Nigeria and beyond. I want to thank Raul, I call him Dr. Raul, a regional geologist, for his brilliant presentation and putting up this package. May the Lord bless everyone here that has made our time to make this memorial lecture a success. God bless you all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Raul. I guess we're calling it wrongly by saying Rahul the other time, but thank you for helping us. Right. So thank you, Dr. Raul, for this. So we'll run along quickly and take presentations so that we eat our hours of one. I have to do the first announcements. I'm handing over to Mr. Emeka Ejika, General Secretary, and he'll be talking to us about the questionnaire we have sent out and also the upcoming AGM. Over to you, Emeka. Emeka, we can't hear you. Well, I can't hear you, so.
Should have muted himself.
You want to try to unmute? Okay, now try to unmute and let's see if this works, please.
Yeah, so confirm you can hear me, please.
Yes, you need to move a bit closer. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thanks for finding time to attend to this technical meeting. Like Prof rightly said, we are conducting a survey And the aim of this survey is to gather data that will enable us reposition the Secretariat for efficient service delivery. We all know the value of Secretariat in association. We can't do without Secretariat. So we've been recently we've been evaluating strategies that will help us strengthen their roles, especially the Secretariat staff. And one of the things we agreed that we will do as an ESCO is to engage an external HR consultant. So we came up with this survey, and the aim is to get as much feedback as possible from our members. And so this will go in 3 phases. Number 1 is to identify the issues that we need to assess. That is the whole essence of sending out the survey. After we've collected the data, done the data analysis, we'll now start developing customized solutions. From there, we'll now move to implementation. So like I said, the survey is out already. It's not going to take your time, less than 5 minutes to be done. We ask people to please participate. There's no way we'll know what you want if you don't fill the survey. I know we all have different expectations when it comes to deliverables from the Secretariat, but this is the time for us to make sure we get those across so that we can incorporate that as we all gear towards improving what we have at the Secretariat. So that is it for repositioning the Secretariat and how we want to increase efficiency of the Secretariat. Then the next one will be on the constitutional review. Again, thanks for everyone that attended the last extraordinary AGM. We've collected feedback, and the AC has done quite a good job in putting them together. I will ask us that we go back and see and read the constitutional amendment. We've sent it out already, just to be in compliance with our constitution, just to be in line with the provisions of the constitution, which stipulates that we will send the constitutional amendment 60 days before the AGM. We've done that already, so please find time to read it. At the AGM, which holds at our annual general meeting, at our annual conference, we will be putting that up for voting. So please, we want as many people as possible to participate. We know the only way we can do that is to make sure that we are financially up to date. So please, if you've not paid your dues, there's an opportunity to do that. So that's all I have as announcement. Over to you. I don't know if you have any other thing to add.
Oh, nothing to add. I like the encouragement that you're giving all our members to make this happen for NAPE. Please sign in and let's get your inputs on the survey as quick as possible. It takes 4 minutes. So we have elections ongoing. It commenced September 1st. These are the candidates. We have, as you see them, Elliot, Mr. Elliot Ibe, Dr. Anthony Ofoma, Dr. Dele Falebita, and Mr. Philip Ajebele contesting for the various positions listed on the election portal. Please log on. If you are a financially up-to-date member, please log on and make your votes count. I mentioned when we started, and we even played a teaser, that the mini conference also starts today. This is just to show you what our university and academic community will be enjoying for the next 5 days till Sunday. There will be an opening ceremony, which will be tomorrow. They have the icebreaker. They have a field trip that will be held by Professor Nwajide that we all know. And there are a couple of activities that you can also participate in. Unfortunately, this is strictly physical, so there are no virtual options for you to join. But you have a chance to sponsor students, and thank you to all those who had sponsored and sent our students on this conference. We really do appreciate, and it's the joy of having you as members and being able to fund people that are coming behind us. If you haven't read the NAPE news, the August edition is out. So please log on to www.nape.org.ng and look out for where you have the NAPE news. Is the first one on it. Please click read. This edition is available only as a digital option. We do not have physical options for members this time around. The conference is here. There have been questions around how do we register, what are the activities that are happening. The CPC are already working on this. Please ignore the date for the CPC. That was the last. Another one is coming up next week, hopefully after the mini conference. But these are the activities that have been lined up. We also have a timetable for all our publicity engagement. So please be on the lookout for all of this in your email. Technical sessions are being held concurrently, even while we have all of these activities. On Saturday, we have the young professional who will be hosting Dr. Ebere Bernard, and he'll be talking to them about stochastic inversion and seismic geomorphology for reservoir architecture and little fluid prediction. So please join them. It is open to all NAPE members. The same thing next week, we have on 30th September, Thursday, we have the NAPE UK Europe chapter who will be having another technical session, this time on the theme, Advanced Geostatical Seismic Reservoir Characterization. So please make sure to join them. Details for how to join is here, but it's also in your email. We send regular emails daily. Please be on the lookout for it and actively participate as NAPE members. We are social. We can't beg you enough. Please spend your social currency on us. So anytime you're on this street, please check into NAPE pages and like, engage, because when you do that, then you give more people, more members the opportunities to see all the activities that we are doing. So it's on this note I would like to stop and say thank you so much for joining us today. I would like to hand over again, because the PE did that, to Mr. Abiodun Adesanya, if he's still with us. So please call up this meeting and then I'll have the IPP to give our closing remark. Mr. Adesanya, over to you again, please.
Yes.
And gentlemen, for your time, for
Is it me or we can't hear him? Emeka, can you hear him?
No, I think
okay.
We lost him there.
We can't hear you. I think I should have muted himself.
Okay, let's give him time. I mean, yeah, it's back now. Thank you.
Yeah. So we're not here. Okay, we're not hearing you, sir. No.
Okay, we can't hear you. Maybe the airport that is not connected, but you're available to speak to us, but we can't hear you still.
No, we can't hear you. No, we still can't hear you.
So I've unmuted you. Great, right. We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I was just saying that I wanted to, appreciate everybody that has today in honor of SW Peters, and I believe that the knowledge, the information we have gathered are quite enriching enough and will spur us into doing more work, research work and otherwise in these basins, so that we can unlock. This is front and square in the hands of Frontier Exploration Service. And thankfully, the Petroleum Industry Act has given them that platform to now spread the exploration efforts across the country. So we believe that this will happen, and we thank Savannah Energy, we thank Raul, we thank Uyo Calabar chapter for giving us an opportunity to be enriched. Thank you very much, and have a nice day, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Alex Tucker, FNAPE, over to you, please. Are you on? Great, right.
Yeah, thank you, Tobosun, for this opportunity. On behalf of the President, the entire executive of NAPE, I want to sincerely thank Uyo Calabar chapter, especially the chapter coordinator, for even reminding me yesterday that this topic was specially meant for me, and I must not miss out. I'm so happy to be here. The topic is as if it's specifically meant for me, based on my current role as the General Manager in charge of Chad Basin operations, which covers a reasonable part of these lectures. I want to assure the organizers of this very important session and the NAPE family that I will closely look at the discussions in this technical session to see areas we bring to reality. We have a mandate to bring out everything hidden within the reef systems of this nation, and we will surely do that just like we have started in Kurmani. It is our desire to do that across all the basins. I want to thank the speaker for today, Raul Bastante, for a wonderful presentation. I felt as if I was listening to Professor Peters himself. We are very proud of you, and it is our hope that you continue to present such papers for the education of our members, especially those that are yet to believe in the hidden treasures in the reef systems. I want to thank the Savannah group for allowing him to speak to us. I want to thank the chairman of today's occasion, my mentor, a distinguished fellow of NAPE, the past president of this association, for creating time to chair this occasion in spite of his very busy schedule. We continue to latch on your experiences to keep NAPE moving. I want to thank everyone that has made time to be a part of this program. Like I've said, I'm currently on vacation, but due to the importance of this program and NAPE to some of us, I had to cancel everything for the morning hours to be at this presentation. We appreciate each and every member of this association that have made time to grace this occasion in spite of several other pressing issues. Thank you once again. We look forward to seeing you at the subsequent sessions and the conference in November. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. We do appreciate your coming. On that note, we would like to leave you with something special towards the NAPE upcoming conference. Please enjoy. So, distinguished NAPE member, have you registered? All righty. On that note, we'd like to say thank you and have a good afternoon or a good day, depending on which part of the globe you are in right now. You take care. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thank you, everyone. Bye.